South Africa's present-day economy is booming, and South Africa has become part of the BRICS consortium of nations in the world. To link people together in disparate regions within the country of South Africa, roads and railways are the major channels that allow for transport of people and goods.
The transportation situation in rural Bushbuckridge, South Africa, is drastically different from any of the cities and countries we had seen thus far. Due to the racially divided history of South Africa under the apartheid regime, which persisted for most of the latter half of the 20th century, different areas of the country and different subpopulations of South Africa experienced differential access to resources and differential amounts of growth.
The apartheid government created a strong train system to bus black workers into cities. However, the system has since fallen into disrepair. Buses and trains are used for intercity transit. Buses are run privately by a variety of companies in a haphazard, schedule-less manner.
So you mentioned the buses.
Mm-hmm.
Do people use buses in Islington or in Johannesburg or both places?
Everywhere for long distances. From city to city, they're usually buses. That's why they name them city to city. The buses' names are city to city. They drive you city to city.
Is it run by a company or the government, or like how does the system work?
Companies, because we have Greyhound, we have a whole lot of buses, bus companies, a whole lot.
Are there stations that you go to, or can you pick them up?
No, you go to stations. Buses, you go to stations specifically.
South Africa has around 20,000 kilometers of rail transport. The operation of the country's rail systems is accomplished by Transnet subsidiaries, Spoornet, Shosholosa Mail, Metrorail, Transwork, Proticon, and others. Trains are state-run, but weak infrastructure causes frequent delays and breakdowns. Poor infrastructure can also be tied to government policies.
There's a lot of infrastructure available, for instance, with the fixed line, railway systems, which are currently not being optimally used. And I don't know what it is. Is it a management problem or a logistical problem or what? But if you look at the infrastructure, it normally sort of links all these small towns and so on and so forth, but it's not properly utilized.
Properly utilized as it's not running whatsoever, or it's poorly run, or?
Well, in some instances it's not running at all, and in other instances it's not properly managed.
So what kinds of problems are there with using that system? Are there long delays? Are there just not enough trains running?
No, they're non-existent.
Okay.
So people are not using it.
Okay.
And I think when I was in Ekonhoek, I used it once to commute between Ekonhoek and Joburg, and it was an absolute nightmare. It took me about a whole day to get there, whereas if I take a car, I could do it in 4.5, 5 hours.
As a country, South Africa has roughly 362,000 kilometers of highways, 17% of which is paved. In Islington, a small village in the jurisdiction of the Bushbuckridge municipality, private forms of transportation, predominantly cars and taxis, are the main ways that people mobilize.
In my house, to go out, I'd go with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with her car. Mm-hmm. Or if I have to, I'll use just a taxi.
How does the taxi work here? Do the drivers decide the price, or how does the system work?
The drivers talk. There's always an association, like in Islington, in most of the villages nearby, they decide on the same price for certain stops and distances and all that. Yeah.
And are there companies that, are the cars marked in some way? How would you pick a taxi?
Every taxi has a name of the owner. An owner probably has about 10 taxis. Yeah, but then for the association, they'll be for Islington, let's just say taxis to Islington. They don't write that. You just have to stand maybe at the road and point to Islington. like in Johannesburg, to point for a place has a sign. Let's say a hospital, you'd be like this. And there's a place called Winnie Mandela, you do this. So like there's a lot of signs to like check if the taxi is going to where you're going. They're not written. You are the one who's supposed to show the drivers where you're going. Or if you had to go to the taxi rig, you tell them by mouth. But if it's driving you on the road, you do signs.
A lot of residents of Bushbuckridge dislike some of the taxi drivers. Generally, these drivers are perceived to be poorly educated, resulting in dangerous driving upon the roads.
I would say there are some good drivers in the taxi association and some bad drivers. So there are those drivers who have given the association the bad reputation. So some drivers will be rude to the customers, while some will treat others good. But it depends which town you're driving in and all that stuff. I'll say that.
What I know, like last year, I don't remember when, but there was this fight between two taxi associations, which was Tata and BTA fighting, and a lot of people died there.
But things are getting slowly but surely. They're getting better, because you will find they're taking out all those taxis which are not roadworthy. They're taking them out of the roads. So things are getting there slowly but surely. Hopefully they will get better.
The car has come to represent a symbol of status.
South Africa, it's like, your car is also very much an extension of who you are, so people like to use big cars and, fancy vehicles, German-made models and so on, just to illustrate that they are successful or whatever.
And then, do you think many people in South Africa own cars? Who owns cars? Who doesn't own cars? How does that?
Well, again, it depends on who you're talking to. Most people don't own cars, generally. But anybody who's economically active definitely owns a car. I mean, that's one of the first things that you aspire to. It's interesting that I once worked with one of the councillors, ward councillors in the area in Hanoi, and came to me and said, well, what do I think about what car she should buy? And I said, well, simple, get something that can get you to your constituency. It is rough terrain, and at times you're going to need, to transport people. So, a similar car to the one that I have makes a lot of sense, which is a very basic people sort of mover. And she said, no, I can't be seen in a car like that. So I said, what do you mean? It makes a lot of sense. It's economical. It's it's productive. You can transport a lot of people if you need to. I use it a lot to move people to conferences and workshops and stuff like that. So she said, no. She said, there's a problem. If I go to a meeting and I arrive in what is termed a skoro, so that's like an old, rundown vehicle. People won't take me seriously. She says that what they do is they actually send somebody out to see what is the car that you arrived in, what does it look like, so that they can assess the value of you as a human being. So that's how interesting it is.
Cars also are more convenient for a lot of people to drive.
Why do people want cars, and why do people not want cars?
They want to be where they want to be in time, or alone, or maybe, you see.
All in all, in the rural areas of South Africa, traffic was not an issue, so vehicle choice was driven by cost and degree of autonomy available. Cars were expensive but had the most autonomy. Taxis are sometimes used to commute locally, and trains and buses are used for long-distance travel, but are unreliable by and far.
How do you feel transportation plays a role in your life?
In my life, transportation, I can say, I enjoy driving, in fact. That's my job. I enjoy driving, which means it's my life. Sometimes I have to drive. Sometimes when I'm not at work, they can ask me somewhere. My friends say you must drive the taxi and take some other guys where if they have got no time. So I used to help other people in transporting peoples and everything.
So you used to drive a taxi?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
And can you tell us, talk about that experience of driving a taxi?
Experience of driving a taxi, it's a huge experience because you transport many different kinds of people. Some they want you to be faster, some they want you to be slow, you see. So it's difficult to transport many. But if you tell yourself you are a driver, you just be patient with those people. Some other guys say you are running faster, some other guys say you are too slow, so you don't have to listen to them, just drive. Perfect.